Everyone, welcome to HOA Fight Club. I'm Raylene Schifano. I'm going to discuss today a few different things. First of all, as you can see with my new thing on there, that I'm going to be doing a series called In the Ring with Raylene. And it's just going to be open conversations with people that are dealing with their HOAs, or I even have people that are tenants. And there's just a lot of different things that go on in the day-to-day workings of HOA and what I do. And so I'm going to kind of go over a couple of the things that I have been working on first. I am working with a few different cities across the United States. One particular is in Nevada that doesn't enforce fire codes, won't come inspect fire codes. And so I'm questioning the city and our government. We have all these things that we want people to be responsible for. We want our HOAs to be responsible for us and to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. But there is nobody making sure that the association is doing what it's supposed to be doing. And in this case, it's the city isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing, and it just keeps going, and the state is covering for the city. So, it's if somebody's not up to fire code, let's just talk about fire codes and building codes. If there is an issue, because I have a few of them, one is the building is not up to code. And in this not being up to code process, that means that that building could fail at any time. And if it fails, then it kills people. Surfside's the perfect example of that from Florida. When that building fell, it was because there was code violations that were being ignored by the city and the state. So they allow for the associations to put maintenance off, or do it at a different time, or delay it, or wait for the special assessment or the insurances. And so there's all these different things that go into play when it comes to an HOA. And most boards, oh, let's not spend the money now, let's spend the money somewhere else. Maybe they misappropriate funds. So there's lots of different reasons why things don't get done. My concern is if there's a brand new condo association at this day and age, they should be up to code. And the reason they should stay up to code is because I know, like in Washington state, they have to stay up to code. That's part of the whole reason of having a condo association, is that that association is going to make sure that it is up to code and it remains up to code, and that it has a reserve fund. That is the goal of this whole industry of HOA. So that is what we're supposed to be focusing on. Unfortunately, what ends up being focused on is actually not maintaining the property, but maintaining the people. So when we look at fire codes, or building codes, if a person has a complaint and says, hey, I don't know if this is up to code, city, can you come out and take a look at it and tell me whether it's up to code or not? The city should be more than happy to. And they can come out, they can make a determination. It's a simple process. They say whether it is or isn't up to code, and then they either send out the notices to bring it up to code, or they tell the person, no, it's all up to code and it's all good. And somebody signs off on that, and it's really simple. So I don't understand why in this city in Nevada that they won't do this. They won't sign off, on this evacuation lane. Is it or isn't it evacuation lane? Does it need to be open? Does it not need to be open? Can we build there? Can we not build there? The city has made it impossible. In fact, the quote from the city is that they can't enforce a code that wasn't put on the property prior to being purchased. Doesn't make sense, right? They come and inspect the fire, sprinkler heads, they inspect the fire hydrants, they inspect everything else, they make sure the building's up to code. Why are they not checking the outside areas to make sure that it's been, properly mapped out for the fire engines, that everything is good, that if there is a problem, these are two-story buildings, so it's not a big issue, but if a building does have issues, what is the fire evacuation plan? So anyway, so that's some of the things that I'm working at with just codes and that, which shouldn't have to be, I should not have to be governing, and we should not have to be governing the state. Legislation has taken away the right for an HOA to rely on the city. So the HOA has to rely upon itself. It's created its own government. Your board of directors are your government. So if your government fails you, it's on the government, right? So how does legislation not hold this government at least under governance? So, if the legislators are doing bad things and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, they could have governance and oversight to make sure that they are properly doing their jobs. Well, it comes to the same thing. Who's the governance and the oversight of the board of the directors? Um, it matters. These little HOAs, these are rogue nations in our nations. If anytime you say that they are not under the Constitution or they aren't under the laws or they're my big thing is if the attorney general's not over it, if the attorney general cannot issue or do an investigation and issue results and issue fines for violating the laws, then what good are our laws? We put these laws in place, but if we have no governance of these laws, then it really matters. It matters about who's enforcing what. So let's take this, for example. You have a neighbor, you don't live in an HOA. If you have a problem with your neighbor that you don't have an HOA with, you have to go to small claims court or another court or civil court or wherever court is appropriate to deal with just that person. But you're not paying any dues for anybody else to help you out. So, you're not paying things. Now, in HOA, if a neighbor, the board is your neighbors, they're equal neighbors, they're equal partners, has a complaint against you, all they have to do is issue a fine and they can put a lien on your home and foreclose if you don't pay those fines in most states. Now, I kind of find that unlawful. You've never had the right to go to court. You're being evicted. If you were a tenant, you would have a ton of laws that would help you because you're really being evicted without being any proof or any judgment against you. So when we allow for boards to be jury, judge, and executioner, it seems to be unconstitutional. And I'll tell you in a minute what makes it really unconstitutional. But let's go with the Attorney General of Washington State. And I'm going to read his quote was, "One of my office's core functions is to defend the civil and constitutional rights of residents. In this case, Washingtonians were unlawfully removed from their homes, separated from their families, and rendered homeless. My office will protect Washingtons from harmful and illegal discrimination." And his announcement is big news from the Washington Supreme Court today. Our civil rights lawsuit against the city of Sunnyside will continue. Sunnyside forced tenants out of their homes without a court order or over unsubstantiated claims of crime or nuisance. Well, an HOA can get you on a nuisance violation anytime, any place, anywhere. All they have to do is send out a fine that you didn't mow your grass. So when he's saying that he defends the constitutional and civil rights of everyone, he doesn't, because we have made many complaints to the Attorney General's office and they won't even investigate them because they're under HOA and they have no governance over HOA. So that is really difficult for me to see that seems to be discriminating against people that are in HOA and people that are out of HOA. So if you're in an HOA, you don't get the same civil and constitutional protections as if you're out of an HOA. If you're just a tenant somewhere, you have more rights than you do if you're an HOA homeowner, condo owner. So another example of this, and we talked about this in my last video, is the industry is creating the standards. The industry is doing the governance. The industry is making the money off the backs of homeowners. They're profiting from the demise of a homeowner. When we have a case where an attorney has advised a board and written more than 1, 2, 3, I think there's probably 10 to 12 letters I can think of, that this person is in violation. And when this person asked for the right to be heard, they were denied. They were told no. They were told, no, you do not have that right to be heard. And yet that is the simplest guarantee we have under our Constitution, both state and federal Constitution, is the right to due process. We have the right to be heard. How are you allowing an HOA to kick homeowners, take their homes actually in foreclosure for being a nuisance to the board as you are a tenant, whether they're being a nuisance? Doesn't that seem to be unconstitutional right there when you're protecting more a tenant class over a homeowner's class just because these people live in an HOA and the legislators have given them the right to be jury, judge, and executioner? That's fair in our Constitution? Because I have to question that. We should not be creating an industry to foreclose on people's homes. And if you look at the lobbyist and what they lobby for, it is for super priority liens and non-judicial foreclosure. Non-judicial foreclosure is no court. You don't get to court and you get to go to court and defend why they're taking your home. They just tell the courts that it's past due assessments. They assessed those fines to your account, and that's how they're getting away with it. And they're doing it for the demise of the homeowner so that they can profit. An attorney should see failures in the law and create better laws and create solutions, not profit from the demise of thousands of homeowners. When you're an attorney, a collections attorney, and I can give you a few examples. I mean, there's some big collection attorneys. I know Condo Law in Washington State is one. Barker Martin is a big collections attorney in Washington State. What are they collecting for? Are they verifying that debt isn't even verified or validated by anyone but the board of directors? So if the board of directors tells them that's an assessment, the attorney doesn't question that. They don't even care. But where I get into it is, especially in this case with the TM Landmark case in King County, Washington, is that the owners never had the right to be heard. They requested it. They were denied many times the right to be heard. This is where our Constitution and our civil rights matter. So I would ask the government, the last time I asked the industry to be better and to do better, but I think our government needs to do better at realizing that we are putting people purposely into homelessness. If we do not add protections to the laws that guarantee that there's going to be some sort of governance over the industry. You don't even have to do it over the associations. You just have to do it over the industry who's profiting from the demise of the people. It isn't the boards profiting. It's well, they could be profiting. We'll go into that different day, but the industry is profiting. An attorney is charging anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000 for a foreclosure, and they're making how many foreclosures a month? You know, if you look at the foreclosures in Washington, there's at least 20 guaranteed in just 3 counties alone. So we have a lot of things going on, and you don't see a lot of the end of the day foreclosures because when the HOA forecloses, they don't foreclose on the mortgage. They wait for that mortgage to come back and foreclose. They just buy it in a sheriff's sale, auction or rent it out, do what they want with it, and then they sell that to they let it go usually to the bank because it owes money on it. So the bank takes it in foreclosure from the association. So who's this benefiting? Who's it? Is it the banks? I mean, is it the industry? The banks are the industry. The property managers are the industry. The attorneys are the industry. And they're the big industry that are making a lot of decisions in our United States. $18 million for their Virginia chapter alone in 1 year. $16 million the next year. That's just the Virginia chapter. We have no chance if we have no voice. And the news is failing to even acknowledge this crisis that's going on across the United States. We have housing crises everywhere. Rent prices are high. You know, HOA dues are, astronomical. You have no idea. An HOA dues can go from $200 a month to $500 a month. There's no cap on fees on a lot of properties. We have a lot of issues here, and we need our government to step up and at least do the little things, enforce the codes, be a part of making sure that the association property is up to code. These reserve studies that I've seen are a joke. They're not reporting the truth, and it's really harmful to these people that are buying into these communities. And we have truth in lending laws and consumer protection laws, and yet we have the real estate industry in fighting for legislation to take away the 10-day period that you have the right to go over those documents to make sure that that association's up to code. Everybody wants to put you in there as fast as they can, but nobody wants to protect you once you're there. So realize that once you buy that home, nobody's going to be there for you. The government will wash their hands of you and say, you're in an HOA. All right, you guys, I'll see you on the next one.